What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Young Guns podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about someone that has been under the radar this season. A player at just 21 years old is having a fantastic season and is leading the Ottawa Senators in points. Tim Stutzle. So he's been fantastic and arguably the best player from the 2020 NHL Entry Draft, which we're going to be talking about shortly. But he currently has 79 points in 68 games, 35 goals, 44 assists. That is fantastic in terms of his progression. It's only his third season in the NHL, and he continues to progress at a rapid pace. So, first season, 2020, 2021, 29 points. Then last year, 2021, 2022, 58 points, and now 79 points. It seems like he continues to increase his offensive stats each year. Not only that, he was drafted as a left winger, but he's currently centering the first line of the Ottawa Senators, playing with Brady Tkachuk and Claude Giroux. So playing with the captain of the Ottawa Senators and arguably one of the best veterans in the league in Claude Giroux, who he's been having a fantastic season with Ottawa since joining them. And the Ottawa Senators, even though they most likely will not make the playoffs, they're progressing fairly well in terms of their rebuild. And I do believe that they will be in the playoffs as soon as next year.
Yeah, I think that they've had a bounce back season from last year for sure, and I think Ottawa's, one of those teams that I think has added some really good pieces to their team. Obviously, Tim Stutzle has been a real revelation for them this season. He signed that $8.3 million contract extension at the beginning of the year, and there was a lot of people that questioned it, basically saying, "Oh, is he deserving of it? Is that too much money for Tim Stutzle?" And Stutzle's kind of shut up the haters essentially. 79.68 games, like you said, 35 goals. He's on pace to score 40 in his third career NHL season. But this is a guy that when he was drafted by Ottawa, there was a talk about how he was projected to go first overall, and it was between him and Alexis Lafreniere for first overall. And obviously the Rangers ended up going with Lafreniere. Los Angeles ended up going with Quinton Byfield, and Ottawa picked up Stutzle third overall. And I think that, honestly speaking, you talked about him being the best player in the draft. He has been. He really has been the best player of his draft so far. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that DJ Smith's played Stutzle in a really good position with Ottawa. He gave him the opportunity to play on the top line. He basically put him in there and said, "You know what? We believe in your talent. We believe in the player that you're going to be. Um, here's top line minutes with Brady Tkachuk." And he's grown there. And obviously him and Tkachuk are best friends, which leads to good chemistry as well on the ice. And one of the things that I gotta say about Tim Stutzle is, Ottawa was the perfect market for him when he went there, because there's no pressure in Ottawa essentially when it comes to that, because the success of the Senators was based on their rebuild that they were going to do. And Tim Stutzle's played a big part in that. And now that they've got him and Tkachuk signed long term, it's going to be fun to see what both of those guys are going to do moving forward. But, I've been very impressed with Tim Stutzle. I said it from the beginning when he first got drafted that I thought this guy was going to come into the league and take it by storm. He gave me Leon Draisaitl vibes. I don't know if he'll ever reach the career trajectory that Leon Draisaitl is currently, but at this age, Draisaitl wasn't even as good as Tim Stutzle, and Stutzle's at a point where, he may end up, competing for Draisaitl for the best German player of all time. And so, for me, I think there's definitely a lot of promise for the Senators. And if you're the Senators, but not only that, if you're a fan of the Senators, you're extremely excited about what Tim Stutzle is going to do, because he's played really good hockey this season. And a lot of the reasons why Ottawa, were even in the playoff race to begin with was because of how good him, Brady Tkachuk, and Claude Giroux were this season, and also Thomas Chabot as well. So they got to be happy about themselves. I think they've got to be proud about the situation that they're currently in. And I think for Ottawa, it's going to be about trying to continue to build on this team and build, and adding more pieces for Tim Stutzle and build around Tim Stutzle too. So I think that that's going to be something that Ottawa should look into more.
And I know everyone's always calling him the diver and saying that, he's a troublemaker and whatever, but this season, he really shut up the haters. And you could look at his point totals. He's projected to get 40 goals this year, which is fantastic. And I'm pretty sure the last guy who got 40 goals was probably Danny Heatley. When he played with the Ottawa Senators. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was Alfredsson, or maybe it was Jason Spezza, but it's been quite a while since they've had a player like Tim Stutzle. And I do believe that, with the core four for years to come, you have Giroud, the Brinkat, Kachuk, and Stutzla. I do believe that the Ottawa Senators are trending upwards. And Yzerman said that Ottawa is ahead of the Detroit Red Wings in terms of their rebuild. And I do believe the Brinkat will resign because he's been flourishing this year. They have quite a future ahead of themselves. And, they're just a couple of pieces away from being a very, very scary team. And just looking at these point totals from the 2020 NHL Entry Draft, Lucas Raymond and Tim Stutzle are pretty much the best players in this draft year. Lafreniere has been underwhelming, even though he's somewhat improved towards the second half of the 2022-2023 season. Quinton Byfield's dealt with a lot of injuries. And just going down the list, a lot of guys that have not found their footing yet. They've got a couple of games in, but they still have yet to reach, their prime essentially. But it seems as of right now, Ottawa has themselves the steal of the 2020 NHL entry draft.
Well,
And
I wouldn't say it's a steal because he went third overall, but
yeah, but you know what I mean.
yeah.
He's basically first overall caliber. That's what I'm trying to
He's the
say.
best
And
player that came out of his draft so far, and I think he'll continue to be. And one interesting note about Stutzler too is the fact that he's the only player in his draft class that has more than 100 points. So that's very interesting to look in his career, which is very interesting to look at. But I also think that Stutzler's been given a good opportunity to succeed in Ottawa. That guys like Lafreniere, Byfield, to some extent even Lucas Raymond hasn't necessarily been given. So I think that also plays a role. But Stützle's a good player. I don't have a problem with Stützle. I think he's already a superstar. I know the title of the video is he a superstar in the making? I think he already is a superstar. The fact that the numbers that he's putting up this season, I think he's going to consistently do it, and I think he's just proving every single year that he's just a force to be reckoned with, in my opinion.
yeah, and look, he's lodging basically 21 minutes per game. So there's a lot of trust in Tim in terms of what he's capable of doing on the ice, and he has developed that trust with DJ Smith, the coach of the Ottawa Senators, and at only the age of 21 years old. That's fantastic. He's playing more minutes than their captain Brady Kachuk, and he's playing more minutes than Claude Giroux, who's uh, you know a legend in the making, essentially. So it's very impressive for him at that age to be lodging these minutes, for him to be
Yeah.
getting this amount of points, and I do believe that we'll see him get 100 points a couple of times in his career. But guys, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What is your projection for Tim Stutzla and him, potentially being the face of the Ottawa Senators for years to come? I know everyone says it's Brady Kachuk because of his character and what he brings to the team on and off the ice. But I do believe that Tim is going to be competing for that position of face of the franchise. He's definitely a superstar in the making. There's no doubt about it, and there's a lot of promising things to come towards the Ottawa in terms of the Ottawa Senators organization, and also in terms of their players. And there's a lot of success that will come along with that as well. But guys, would like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Young Guns podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.